Hi, I'm Lise Colucci, and I'm one of the life coaches at queenbeing.com, where we help you to discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse in toxic relationships. Good morning, early morning here. We're going to continue today with talking about what we talked about the other day, which is dating after narcissistic abuse. And we're going to spin it back toward how it affects you and what you perhaps potentially go through when you are re-entering the dating world or even the friendship world of the world of other people, right? And learning to trust. So I had questions from people, and I'll finish with those and then I'll just talk a bit. So good morning. How is everyone today? Say hello. And if you have questions of your own that are unrelated, of course, feel free to ask at any time. Hi, Scarlet Moon. So I guess that's it. If you need texting notification of my going live, or if you want it, text me at 33222. Put the word Lise Live, Liselive, hit send, and I will text you about 10 minutes prior to going live. Hello, Shelly T and Robin. And I think that's it. If you need any help with coaching or group coaching information, check out the main description of every video. There's info there on how to find me, how to find the groups, so on. And if you need help with anything related to narcissistic abuse, of course, head over to queenbeing.com. Lots of info over there and links to peer support groups. So let's get going with our dating topic. Let me get this bright light up. That's better. And I dropped my mic drop. Okay. All right. Hey, Cheap and Gypsy. All right. So we're going to come back to the other day's topic. I have to get back into this a bit. We were talking about dating after narcissistic abuse on the last live stream. There was a lot more to talk about, so I just cut it off and wanted to finish today. If you have any topics that you would like me to talk about, always feel free to leave any comment in any video, and I will get to them if I can. Okay, where do we start here? Well, let's start with some more questions, and we'll jump in, and then I want to talk about what we go through. So if anyone has been out there dating or curious about what they might feel or what they might experience or afraid of anything or concerned about anything, go ahead and hit me up with questions. And if anyone is, or it doesn't have to be dating, it could be peer groups, friends groups, being in public, whatever. Okay. All right. So let's see what somebody said. How do you, okay. How do you, okay, let's start with this one. I think I answered it a bit on the last one, but I'm going to start with this one because it's good. How do we see what's real in a person and not what you see as potential? I think we have to define what it is for ourselves that we need and want in our lives and start to give it to ourselves in our lives. So we're able to self-fulfill a lot of our own emotional needs and our own needs in life. That way, when we see potential in another person, we're not putting all our hope on that other person to fulfill the need for ourselves. It makes it so that that person isn't like the golden prize, right? They're not the magical unicorn. They're just another human being. And then I think it can help you step back and be present to what is. Being mindful in your life helps with being present to what is. So things like meditation, I think things like taking walks, things like slowing down, getting off your phones, being in the real world around you and paying attention to things, not being, spaced out and checked out and disappearing into the land of electronics all the time can help you to be more present to your life. When you're more present to what is right in front of you, it can help along with what I said before. So I think those are two things. Let's see. You need a dating coach. Well, this is what we're trying here. Okay. Question: how to respond to messages, length of time between responses for length. I'm not dating, interacting in social gatherings. That is a very individual thing. Okay, let's talk about that. They're not texting quick enough. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. They're not answering my text. Or they're texting me all the time. Or I don't know what the flow of text should be. I'm yelling. Okay. I don't know what the flow of the texting should be. I don't know what feels right. Okay. Texting, you have to remember, is this new phenomenon entering our world however many years ago that it is now the main source of communication for most people, right? And it's this instant access to someone else that we feel we have some, like, especially when you can see a send receipt or a received, sent received, it means they read it. So why aren't they answering? So things like that. Or maybe you're a slow texter. It's flow. Yep. It's flow. Am I too slow? Am I too fast? I think as a responsible person, we learn another person's flow. I know someone who loves to talk to me. They do not text a whole heck of a lot. And so the flow is extremely slow compared to somebody who, there's someone else I know, a friend of mine that I can, if I just say, hey, what's up? They'll be right there. They're like, it's like they're a pocket friend, right? They live in my pocket. As long as I need them, they're there, and vice versa. So the flow between one person and I is very fast. The flow between this other person is a very slow thing, and it's not a game. It's just the flow. So I think it's the same as any other form of communication with any other person. It's learning their style and their comfort and blending yours in. Or talking about it like, hey, when you don't reply for 2 days, I think maybe you're not interested in hanging out, and give them a chance to respond. Or I reply really slowly. Please don't take it personal. I tend to check my text about 3 times a day, and that's it. Letting people know what your flow is, and checking in with what their flow is, seeing what they need. Do you need me to reply right away? If it'll be really brief if I do, so don't take it personal. Whatever you need to say. I think that's fair. Okay. I feel like I'm longing for a partner again. I've been healing for a couple years, but part of me doesn't want to show myself to someone again, knowing dating is a numbers game. I feel healthier and happier, but getting to know someone again is not something I look forward to. A little cognitive dissonance. I know maybe it's fear. Oh, do I want to talk about that? Yeah. So being ready does not mean you're perfectly perfect. You're bomb-proof, basically. Nothing's gonna phase you. Nothing's gonna affect you. Your ability to connect feels broken, possibly. Your ability to connect is not broken. It is being blocked by your fear. Okay? You're not broken. We're not broken. We're not broken. We have blocks. We have things we have to work through. Everybody has something they have to work through. We just happen to know what ours are, right? So, hey, Violet and Jen and Grace and anyone on Mo Cowboy, whoever I didn't say hi to. Hello. Okay. That is a really normal feeling that you're describing. I'm one of those crazy people that just jumps in. I'm not allowed to say that. I'm one of those wild people that just sort of jumps in. Let's do it, right? So, but the fear is still there. And the block is still there. So what if you're not interested in hanging out? How do you reject? Okay, let me do this one first and then I'll do that. Okay. How do I want to talk about this? It's a big one. When you feel like, maybe reread this. I'm sorry. I got distracted. Healing for a couple of years. Part of me doesn't want to show myself to someone again. Vulnerability is not something we give away just because, okay? That is something that you can work into with someone through time, through experiencing the consistency of another person's responses to you and to life, to learning to trust bit by bit who that person is. If you know, like for instance, if you know you can turn to one friend for things that are funny, but if you go to them with something serious, they won't respond. Then you trust that part of them, right? You trust that relationship being like that. So it's not idealizing or fantasizing the relationship into something it isn't, so that you can see what it actually is, whether it's dating or friendships, and trusting that person is consistent in that piece of the relationship. Finding someone that's a partner, you're looking for compatibility on these types of things, right? So it's a lot about knowing you can walk away if something goes bad. If something goes toxic, it doesn't mean that you attracted toxicity. It means that you didn't see, there were no red flags presenting themselves. You did not see them. And when you did, you left, right? Knowing you can walk away from it is big. A lot of times we're not trusting ourselves, because in reality, who cares really? none of it really matters, right? Whether we're vulnerable or not vulnerable, it can't hurt us until we let the person in, right? A lot of people have told me I'm extremely open. And this is me too. I'm extremely open. I'm an open book. Ask me anything you want. I'll tell you anything, right? I will connect with you on a happy, loving level. I will, all this stuff. But the reality is, when it comes to true vulnerability and feeling completely open with someone, and I don't even know how to describe that in words, that part's really hard. And that part is, I think we can't enter into it without the pain. I don't think that's a place, I honestly don't think that is a place we can work the healing without another person's presence, because it's really great and wonderful and everything to learn to be alone and to be happy alone and to be secure alone and to not need a partner and all of that. That's awesome. And there's pieces like, how can you work a piece that pushes the buttons if there's no buttons being pushed? And so how do you find someone safe enough to do that? That's the keeping yourself protected while you are also seeking. And that doesn't mean guarded. Does that make sense? It's like, for instance, one thing might be you don't enter into anything physically sexual until you have certain understanding of the person, right? Until you know them a little bit, or a lot, depending on who you are. You don't maybe share a lot of your history with your abuse until you know someone really well. You don't maybe share a lot of you don't need to share a lot of what you're working on and the stuff you're dealing with someone right away or too soon, because then you are opening up that sort of vulnerability that is a very scary place. And it's not necessary. It's not their business really in the beginning, and it's not theirs to fix. What you can do is see what happens when you come up and meet someone, and as they're triggering things, because what will happen is to be triggered. Okay, something can be completely awesome. This is from experience, can be completely great, completely relaxed, really happy, really wonderful with someone who has got no red flags going on and everything's going right. And every so often up comes when's the other shoe going to drop inside of us? And then we think, why did I let myself be so vulnerable? And we go into the tailspin, and really that's ours to work on, not anything that has to do with the other person. Does that make sense? And so then it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not simple. There isn't a way. I don't think there's a way to prepare for that part, because how can you, unless you can, it's like reading a book and saying, okay, I'm healed. I read this book. You have to go and live it. Right. So, okay. So it's being careful, being considerate with the other person, and knowing that everybody's working on something. Anyone who is I'd say over 35, especially if you're over 45, you've had some stuff go down in relationships. You're not, a spring chicken going around with your, happy. You're not a young person in the time of life when you haven't had these life experiences. So if you've had life experiences, you pretty much can guess that the other person has too. So everybody's got something they're working on. All right, let's keep going. All right. I feel healthier. I read that already. I miss what Violet said. Where is it? What if you're not interested in hanging out? How do you reject someone without awkwardness or guilt for rejection? You are not obliged to hang out with anyone. There is no guilt necessary. If you've been leading them on, so to speak, if you have been leading them on, I don't want to say it, you feel like you've been leading them on, then it's just a conversation. You know what? I really think you're fun, and I don't think that we are compatible as dating partners. Either I'd love to hang out as friends, or I don't know that we should hang out. I just don't see this as a compatible relationship thing between us. And then they may ask, oh, what do you see? Or okay, or people may get gonna get their feeling hurt. No one wants to be rejected, right? I can tell you, if you're out there in the dating world, as in the internet dating world, the dating app world, you're going to be rejected as much as they reject you. That's just the way it is. And yet what I've learned is it's not about me. It's not about them. It's about the compatibility or the situation. It's about the person who's doing the rejecting. It's not about the So it's about you. You're choosing no, and that's totally fair and totally okay. And you just have to have resolve that this isn't the right person for my life. That's the trap of the guilt and awkwardness. And I don't like doing it. I mean, yeah, but I think it's knowing that you're choosing what is right and what is not right for your life, and it is about you, and having that attitude when you speak to them. And knowing that you've hurt someone a little bit, it's really, you're just bruising their ego. They don't know you well enough to actually be hurt. They may be hurt because they've had a string of rejections. That's theirs to work on, to realize that it isn't about rejection. It's about compatibility. And frankly, they probably are just not wasting their time then with something incompatible, right? Okay, so you no longer identify as broken. Good. Mud-covered jewel. We aren't broken. It's exactly right. I didn't see her stream. I was asleep. But yeah, we're not broken. We're tangled up, right? Things get tied in knots, and we just need to pull the string and start untangling it. We're building a foundation based on what we've seen in our life. So actually, we were taking the rubble of what we feel is the broken pieces and building a foundation underneath us, hopefully towards something that gives us strength and lifts us up. That's the aim of why we don't just sit around and wait for time to heal all wounds. We actually put some effort and self-focus and grow our emotional intelligence and our self-awareness, right? Otherwise, yeah. Okay. Does open heart feeling come back? Oh, Jen. And when it does, so does the floodgates of every other emotion that you feel. Sorry. I've dated, but that excited feeling is just not there. When it hits, it's good that you're feeling the blah, because I think the blah is you're seeing a lack of compatibility. You can ask yourself, okay, what I did is I'd hang out with someone and I would ask myself yes or no. Not yes or no to a relationship, yes or no to the experience of wanting to know this person. Is there something I'm feeling that is off? Usually there was some gut feeling of like, this is just off, or there was some really obvious red flags, not toxic red flags. Mostly what I saw was red flags of people who were not remotely ready for anything more than hanging out and having dinner. Really. They weren't even ready to be doing that. But because a lot of people jump back out there too soon. And what too soon means is they're not looking at their stuff. They're looking at what can fix their life through dating or through another person. Or they're trying to squeeze people into a box that is of their making, not create a compatible relationship with two human beings. So those are the things I saw a lot of. So yes, the open-hearted feeling can come back. We have to allow it in. We have to allow our hearts to open sometimes. We have to. So for me personally, it's not about another person opening my heart. It's about life opening my heart. So it's going out into nature. It's taking my walks. It's playing with my dogs and my kids, which those are living things. But, it's nurturing friendships. It's hanging out here. It's in the coaching. It's in my plants. It's in those kind of things that are that help me open my heart so that I know what it feels like. Right. And when it happens with another person, it's big, and it doesn't just open your heart, it opens the pain. So that is what being ready is. That is exactly what I wanted to talk about today. That's what being ready is. It's being willing to revisit what you need to revisit to continue healing. Because like I said, when our hearts close, we can only heal, right? So much. And then when your heart's open, I mean, what person, when you think about it, like, did Mother Teresa have no pain, right? With her open-hearted caring for other people. No, she had a lot of pain, right? It's not it's being willing to feel again, deeply, lots of things. It's being willing to be open to potentially being hurt, to being open to, but the good that you feel and the connection that we're all seeking is in that space. So it's like we have to be, yeah. Does that make sense? Okay. I am way behind on this. Okay. I'm going to catch up. I'm going to do it. Okay. You shouldn't feel shame. No. Okay. You almost relieved when the interaction is over. Okay, it's making sense. All right, good. Jeep and Gypsy, I'm an open book too. I imagine it's best to be that open book when you are emotionally healthy, when you are confident that you can recognize yes. Otherwise, it's ammunition, right? Being an open book. Okay, so here's what I was asked, because I was just talking about this to someone, and they said, okay, Lise, but are you ever vulnerable? They said you use that open book as, it's sort of like, if I'm this open, no one can hurt me because everyone knows who I am, right? I'm right out there. I'm not pretending on here. I'm not pretending anywhere. I'm just me, right? So the more authentic I am and the more open I am with, you want to know, I'll tell you. Ask me any question, I'll tell you. I may change the characters just to protect the innocent, so to speak, but I will tell you, right? And they were suggesting that was my way of escaping vulnerability, and they were right. But it's also a free-spirited way of being, and that's kind of how I am. So I think, yes, when you can recognize toxic, it is important. It could be ammunition, a way for a toxic person to get in, because it's perceived as vulnerability, and so that gives them information to use, right? Sure. Maybe I can't feel those feelings because I'm unwilling to share my own. Yep. That's why sometimes when you're working on that part, Jen, it's safest to go out and find those feelings elsewhere. I mean, literally go out and find scavenger hunt for beauty or joy every day, 3 things. Like literally go seek it and let your heart open. Read poetry, listen to music, dance. Dancing opened it up a ton for me. Things that could be creative. Creativity can help with that. And then when you are ready to apply it to another person, it is going to be scary, and it is going to. So what happens with me is I can have, trying to word this without it being too personal. I can have a experience with someone that I am trusting, that I've chosen to allow the trust to happen. Okay. And am seeing that the consistency of behavior that is reinforcing the trust. And what happens when I get alone is my own triggers come up that have nothing to do with the other person. So to me, what it feels like is I'm trying to recreate trauma bonding in order to attach. I'm trying to recreate, in my own head, I'm trying to recreate a trauma that isn't actually going on in order to attach, so that when they come back, it gives me the oxytocin hit that my dopamine is seeking as I'm building it up with all the anxiety of does that make sense? And so what I'm having to do is find ways to soothe myself. So I'm not turning to a relationship for self-soothing and calming. And so that the attachment that forms with this person is a genuine one based on our actual interactions, not my fantasy of what could go wrong. Does that make sense? And that's how I'm working with it. It really is taking kind of concentration in order to separate what's me from what's really going on. Okay. And that does take willingness to share the feelings, that I do share them after the fact. Okay. Question. Afraid of overgiving once again with people. Got narcissistic mobbed by toxic family who expected me to give with no resistance. A little gun shy. What to say to people now? Well, knowing your boundaries with giving, knowing why you're giving. Are you giving for affection and attention, or are you giving, just being honest with yourself. Why am I giving right now? Giving feels good to givers. We like it. We like to give. Am I receiving back? It's not selfish to receive back. It's reciprocal giving, and it's beautiful when it happens. Okay. And if it doesn't feel beautiful and you feel like you're being used, you're giving too much and you pull back. That doesn't mean you got to dump the people if you're the one doing the giving without them asking, right? But sometimes we got to play with that piece a little bit to see where the comfort is. Like, oh, wow, I really am accommodating their every need. I'm the one driving every single time, and they aren't even going 2 miles and I'm going 20. that kind of thing. So maybe that's the kind of giving. And then you say, you know what, next time let's meet out by my place. And if they aren't willing to do it, then you don't see them, that day or whatever. Or you find other ways to, like, maybe that's an area that they can't, like it's really the only way they can make time is to do it. Then what's another area that you can feel like giving is coming back toward you? So it's watching the balance of the giving and the taking. Giving and receiving, and the reciprocal giving and receiving I think, is healthy. That's what givers do between each other. If you're giving to someone who's not a giver, then pull back the giving and just be present. Just be present to what's there, right? Okay. What are some tools, Mo Cowboy's asking, to cope with or detach from anxiety during the interaction? Oh, Mo Cowboy. Knowing that it's your anxiety and it has nothing to do with the interaction, don't personalize the other person as seeing it as an attack until you've verified that it is an attack. Don't make an assumption because you have put it from your very smart INFJ brain into play. Really, you've seen the big picture based on one interaction. Resist the feeling of personalizing it and thinking that you're right. Just because you saw one potential big picture doesn't mean it is the big picture. We have to realize that, especially us INFJ thinkers, because we do that. And we're often right. That's the problem. However, we're not always right, or we're not seeing all the sides, or we're really, it's basically don't take everything personal until it is. And realize that your anxiety is being ramped up from all of these thoughts going on, right? And we don't need to project our anxiety onto the relationship or the interaction. Okay, that's where we become the red flag, when we're projecting our anxiety out there. So some tools would be mindfulness, coming into your body as much as you can, not the parts of your body that are anxious, like not your stomach or your head that's spinning, your feet and your hands, and grounding yourself down into your body. Taking breaks from the conversation, even just being like, oh, excuse me, I need to use the restroom, or you know what, I'm going to go up and get a drink of water. Do you want something? Just taking a pause from whatever the situation is so that you're not just like right up in it. That's what I'm thinking of right now. If anything else comes to me, I'll say it. When a bad response comes, when we say not for me, that confirms that they are definitely not for me. Right. Okay. You really can't share what a lot of people don't understand. You can't. And really, with someone new, it's not important that they understand your story. It really isn't. In fact, that's something to unfold. People's histories and people's naturally flowing, non-PTSD based people who meet and have just a flowing relationship don't learn everything about each other in 1 minute. Okay, they learn piece by piece and bit by bit as you go. You're out hanging out somewhere at a park and you go, oh, this reminds me of when I was a kid. Did I tell you about my childhood? Oh my gosh, let me tell you this. As you're doing things, we don't just sit down and do a therapy session. Let me tell you about all my stuff and give you my history. Let me give you the history so you can check in. And that's not healthy, normal relationship flow. And that's the main issue I hate about the internet dating world, is that is what dates feel like. Weird interview processes that are actually nothing to do with getting to know who the person is, but they're like history spilling. I've told multiple men if they continued to talk, I was going to have to charge my hourly emergency rate because I am not their coach. Seriously, or I'm not their therapist for sure, and I'm not their coach. If they would like to hire me, they can go through this website and do that, and I'll happily talk to them, but I won't date. I mean, seriously, people want to just spill it, and that is unhealthy, and it feels really invasive to the other person. So you're not obliged to tell them anything. You just be you as you are in this moment and experience them as they are in that moment. And I think you get a clearer picture of people. Okay. You remember what I said last week? Adapt extroverted behaviors could be very helpful in getting back out there. Yes, it is. It's helpful. Okay. Okay. Violet, I'm 50-50, INFJ and INFP. So depends on which test I take. Let's see. I've been divorced 2 years and I don't feel remotely ready to date, and I'm good with that. Of course, you never know. Well, and this also can pertain to making friends, to being in social groups, just to not isolating oneself, and to trusting other people, to re-engaging with friends you already have. Any of this can apply. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic partner. I've distanced myself from my very toxic sister. It's been a one-sided, draining relationship for decades. Of course, my mom is guilting me into reaching out to her. She thinks I'm being mean. So there's always going to be someone that guilts you because they don't get it. People don't get it. They don't get it. You got to do what's right for you, Crystal, and for your life, right? And if you feel like you are less stressed and less filled with the poison of the toxicity by not talking to her, then you're doing the right thing, right? We understand. And it is, yeah, okay. Hi, Belle. Okay. Did I miss any questions? If I did, please re-ask because my scrolling's crazy today. Hi, Frankendoll. Just going back here. Okay. And again, like you said, you have nothing to contribute because you're a long way from dating. This also pertains, like I said, this also relates to friends, to acquaintances, to trusting anyone in the world, to opening yourself to the experience of connection with other people. Let's put it that way. Opening yourself to the experience of connection yet again. Connection has proven for us to be something where we get hurt. Right? So learning to connect again. But for most of us, it's the one thing we want from others, right? It's the one thing we want in our life for a lot of people is to experience connection. If you ask what most survivors, if you ask what they want in a relationship or a friendship, they'll say connection. Connection, understanding, and communication. Those are like what people often say. They're not saying, a white picket fence and that kind of stuff anymore. It's deeper stuff. So in order to have that, we have to learn to open up, right? And we can't open up trust, right? And that trusting the connection. Trusting what? Trusting the other person? Never. Don't trust another person. Trust the other person to be exactly who they present themselves as if they are consistently, repeatedly presenting themselves as that. If they shift and they turn on you, trust that. If we're trusting what we think they are and fitting them into a box of like, okay, this is a responsible person who will never do anything to hurt me. You've just put them in a box. And then when they do something off, you start justifying it. Trust every interaction you have every day. It's about being present and mindful to your relationships always. We don't want to fall asleep. I don't want to step into this new thing and then fall asleep and pretend that it is going to always be what it is. It's an ever-changing, evolving thing. You create relationship with people, right? It's you relating to that person. It's a third thing. It's not something you can, if a friend starts acting like a jerk, then what's happening in that moment? Years of history don't matter at that point. What's happening in that moment matters. And then trying to work on what's actually happening in the moment instead of like, they were always this way and now they're not. To me, that's learning to trust myself, right? And to trust what is real and right in front of me. Okay. Respect, right? Hi, Dawn. Okay, I'm going to read some more of these. More. For a lot of us, narcissists and toxic relationships feel like home. How to learn what a new normal is. It's kind of what I was talking about earlier about how my setting up a situation that is perfectly fine and taking it and twisting it into making something wrong that isn't actually happening so that it would feel like home, so that it would feel like my way of attaching, which is through trauma bonding my whole life. All right. So trying to learn a new normal, I have to ask, what is healthy attachment? And I have been reading like crazy on healthy attachment, be it childhood attachment or adult attachments, and trying to be respectful of the other person, that I'm not bringing them into my trauma, and understand they probably have their own, right? That their attachment is maybe not perfect either. So the attachment has to be in what's right there in the moment. That what am I being present to? So much of this for me has come down to presence. Learning to be present to my life has helped me prepare for being present to another person in the way that I'm trying not to project, and I'm trying to see if they are, right? And does that make sense? And I don't know how else to do that, but mindfulness and presence, and realizing that that relationships are created. They're not manipulated. Does that make sense? It's what two people put in. And if someone's manipulating, then you see it feels different. You see it. Okay. I'm kind of going off in a weird circle here, but finding a new normal. What are we saying? It's probably a real good book though. Yes, I got taught love feels like coming home, letting that belief go and replacing it with what is healthy. Right. Right. Okay. I don't know if I'm missing anything. Okay. I don't know if I missed anything. My eyes are not, it's too early. It's early here. It's 9 a.m. Okay. Toxicity that feels like home. Okay, that's what I was saying. Finding a healthy normal is awkward. It's okay though. I think part of it is in keeping the self-awareness really in focus, so that you can see when you are falling back into the patterns of, like I was describing, or your own version of that, of looking for a way to attach and bond through something dramatic, which becomes trauma bonded versus attached, right? And seeing that, okay, this is going to be a slower process. Trauma bonding's fast, right? You can be with a narc for 2 months and you're trauma bonded. Attachment's slow. Attachment is built and it's created, right? Okay, so what are we saying here? Okay, I'm always singing a strange tune into the microphone. Okay, another thing, when you are dating again, even if it's friendships, this can happen. You might come to the survivor community in particular and say, hey guys, I found a person. I could tell you all about this person. And people would be saying, I hope she knows what she's doing. She's not moving too fast, is she? When you move faster than what somebody else thinks is right, you get the old be careful warnings. Yes, we want each other to be present and to be careful. We have to learn. Well, you're going to get a lot of comments that feel really negative. Like, oh, too good to be true, mustn't be. The truth is, somebody that is healthy for you can feel too good to be true just because there's no drama, and because there's listening and communication and connection. That can feel too good to be true. And when you describe it, we describe it in this way of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm being listened to. I can't believe the connection I have. It sounds like someone is falling into something too fast without paying attention. And people will, in the survivor community, often, especially if in smaller groups where people talk personally, will say things like, be careful, that's too soon, that seems like a red flag. And it really can put fear back into your head and your heart when you're trying so hard to be open with someone. So it gets conflicted, and that can be really hard on some people. So I think being aware of, like personally, when someone says all this fanciful stuff and they're like describing these new things going on, my response is usually, I trust you. I trust that you know how to watch what's going on. And sounds really exciting. The thing is, if the person steps in, if you step in and how I want to say here, it can feel really defeating. So it's almost like the opposite happens. We can turn to each other in the survivor community for understanding the toxic stuff and really relating. But as soon as we bring something positive that we feel is going on, it feels like no one understands, because nobody trusts that real healthy connection is out there. Anyway, so not letting that affect you, understanding that's going to happen. Maybe, if you're saying, oh my gosh, you guys, if you came in here and said, I met this person and blah, 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 blah. And then people would say, be careful, watch it. Are you sure? Then not to let that become anxiety provoking. Just see it as your friends looking out for you and them not understanding for themselves, because they're not either putting themselves out there, or they're not ready, or they're not willing or able to be open yet. Right. So, and we have to always be, doing the stuff we talked about the other day, plus the red flag checklist, and we have to be diligent. So, okay. All right. How to move through fear to be more present once you find someone you actually want to get to know. The triggers get in the way. It's kind of what I was talking about before. It's owning the triggers as yourself, taking enough time on your own. Don't try to process it in front of them. Can you give an example of a trigger that you might personally have? I've already told you mine, but let me see if I'm having any other ones. Let's just do this. Let's just talk about that. All right. Scarlett, if you have a trigger, let me know. I'll try to come up with an example while I'm waiting. If not, how do you move through the fear? Some of it's choice to be present, right? Do you feel like you can be present with that person? Are you trusting that you're watching for the red flags? Are you trusting that you are able to walk away if that person flips on you or does something that is just, that you feel like if you catch yourself justifying for that person, are you willing to really look at it? It's learning to trust yourself, learning to trust yourself that you can take care of yourself and walk away from things. You're not going to step out there and meet the right person right off the bat, most of us, right? And so the willingness to take a few bumps and bruises along the way, emotionally speaking, not physically, as long as they're coming from a place of you watching, not letting someone abuse you, and watching and being able to walk away or not walk away. When I feel ignored because he's not love bombing, maybe I'm not that important to him. Beautiful. Totally get that. That is you, again, doing, I think, exactly what I just described in trying to bond through trauma bonding, creating a thing that isn't happening. He's ignoring me. He's not ignoring you. He's just having his life, right? And then wanting the love bombing to create the bond. So maybe reading about attachment, healthy adult attachment, understanding that healthy attachment happens from shared experiences, from commonalities, from the experience of give and give and take, right? That it's flowing back and forth, that to be able to let go and someone have their life by you letting go of your anxiety or keeping your anxiety. I want to say keeping it to yourself. I don't mean like never talking about it. What I mean is keeping it out of the relationship. This is my anxiety about this and I'm working on it. Okay. When I feel that feeling, I think, okay, this is mine to work on today. It's going to feel uncomfortable today, but what happens when I re-engage with them? Are they loving and sweet and kind? Always, right? It's not, I don't need the affection 24/7 in order to feel connection. All right. Sometimes when you get a grip on it, sometimes speaking to the person and saying, hey, you know what? You know what's really fun? I like to check in at lunchtime and just say hi. Would you like to do that? You know, and we don't have to talk, just a little heart or whatever. Little things to make you feel better that aren't asking a whole lot of someone, and seeing if they can do that. I don't know. And giving back. It's separating it from what's actually happening. Is there something actually happening? Are you seeing something? Are you seeing something real? Like this person, okay, what you're seeing is the person's way of relating. Is this going to work for me? Is it, when you come back together, when you do talk, is it kind and fair and communication's good? And do you share common interests? And do you, like, is all that, is it all good? And then when you step away that you feel freaked out? If it is, then is this flow of the way this person interacts with you what you need in your life? So it's questioning the whole thing, right? And if the answer is yes, then use this discomfort to heal it. You have to sit in it. It's sort of like the trigger. If you run from a trigger and you fight a trigger, the trigger gets bigger and bigger. Have you ever experienced that? And if you just sit and relax into it, maybe have a few bad moments in your day and breathe and work on it, and realize that don't do anything in reaction to that person while you're having that trigger. In other words, don't text them when you're feeling like that. Feeling ignored. I'm feeling ignored. I'm feeling ignored. I'm going to, because you'll start love bombing them, or you'll start passive aggressively demanding things from them, or you're making it about them at that point. And if it isn't really about them, they're not doing anything that you can see. That's not the time to reach out to them. This is the time to reach out to yourself, or to like check in with a friend, or, do it through coaching, or do it through a therapist or something where you can work on healing those anxieties. Is that making sense? All right. We want to be our true selves, and that can be dangerous. I don't think being your true self can be dangerous. It's not necessarily being your true self to go out there and share every anxiety we have and every fear. That's you reacting to fear and showing that. Your true self sits behind that. And the true you isn't this anxious person. That is your reaction to trauma. Okay. So I don't know that it's dangerous to be I don't know. I have to have a conversation about it. You have stage fright when it comes to actually meeting people, but I'm getting strength. It makes sense. It's the kind of thing you can't think away. You just do it. You feel the discomfort. A lot of this is, these triggers are going to come up. They're going to come up big time when the more you open your heart, and the more you open your life to someone. And it's learning to cope again with the triggers. They fade. Healthy relationships heal these things. That's what I'm getting at. Healthy relationships, be them partnerships or friendships, family, whatever. If it's healthy, they help you to see the things you need to see, self-reflect, and make the changes or the growth that you need to make. That's how, otherwise we would just be these, individuals who never talk to each other. We're always in reaction to the community we have around us. So it's in putting people around us that bring out our desire to work on our issues, or our desire to have healthy lives. That's what I look for. All right. Okay. I missed a bunch here. I can't see what I missed. Can't read it. Okay. Did I miss anything, you guys? If I missed a question, please re-ask, and otherwise I'm gonna keep going here. When you're out there dating, somebody asked about how to not to feel guilty about hurting someone's feelings when they have to decline an invitation. It's not a rejection, it's just declining an invitation, all right? Don't take dating personal until it is. It's just meeting people. Honestly, every person you meet does not need to be looked at as, are they the one? Okay, I've made multiple friends on dating sites that are amazing people that are just not the right person, but they're great friends, honestly. And Also in the friend world, just because you meet someone doesn't mean they have to be a close friend. Maybe they're an acquaintance. Maybe maybe there's someone that has other friends and that other friend is someone, you know what I mean? Like maybe they're a friend group. I don't know. You don't know. And don't take it personal until it is personal. So when you're out there dating okay, here's another thing that happens. When you're in the internet dating world, there is a lot of rejection, no matter who you are. Okay, there's a lot of people ghosting you. There's a lot of crappy behavior. There's a lot of really poor communicators or childish, immature people who are man and woman children, that aren't really emotionally that together. There's a lot of people who mean well and don't know how to do this right. It's not an easy thing, and it's very awkward and not natural. Okay. If you take personal every time when you feel rejected, it builds on our already low self-worth that we've been working hard to regain the self-worth. If you don't take it personal, it's just an experience you can kind of laugh off or like, whatever. So what? It was a coffee. It's not a big deal. We take personal the ghosting, the not replying to texts when we don't even know people, because we're clinging to the hope of a relationship instead of the moment and the experience that's actually happening. So again, it comes down to presence and not taking it personal. All right. Okay. I used to ignore my triggers. Now I acknowledge them. What is it? Where do I feel it? Yes. What in my past is it connected to? Thank you, Robin. That's a great point. I write it down, ignoring the feeling. So whoever was asking about triggers and what to do with it just a few minutes ago, what Robin said there is really important. What is it? What is this trigger? I feel like the love bombing means I don't matter. I think that's what the thing was. I feel like where does that come from? Or where do I feel it in my body? Oh my gosh, it gives me a knot in my stomach and I feel sick and anxious. Okay. What is this connected to in my past? That's a good, important question. Well, I can directly relate it to the last narcissist. Okay. They did that to me all the time, blah, 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 blah. Does it go any farther back? Oh my gosh, this has happened my whole life. And you can see that, what do I need to heal those places? What did 5-year-old me who felt lonely when no one was paying attention to her need? Can I give that to her right now in this moment, even if I'm sitting in my car pulled over because I'm upset about this, right? It doesn't matter. What can I give to myself in that 5-year-old me, that 3-year-old me, that 8-year-old me, whatever it is, right? The child. A lot of this comes back to that, or maybe it's a teenage you or a 20-something you when this first happened to you. How far back can you take it, and how can you heal it? How can you talk to that part of yourself and give that part of yourself what you need? It's a way of working on you rather than projecting it onto the relationship. Okay. Living in a camper van is totally in with my group. Sis, it is. Totally is. Okay. What did I say here? This is, somebody asked what's needed to reveal red flags, what questions to ask to reveal red flags. I don't know. Because a narcissist can lie. And if they've been doing this long enough, which they probably have, they easily can come up with something to, hide the red flags. So I don't know that there are set questions. I'm sure people have them, but I think it's more on what your expectations are from the person. And I'm reading, sorry. Okay. So red flags. What's the question? How to reveal the red flags. You don't necessarily reveal the red flags. You watch for the red flags. When talking to someone new, what kind of questions can you ask? It's more in the reply to any question that you ask. It's the way things are talked about. Are they expecting too much too soon? That's kind of a red flag, right? Are they not respecting your boundaries? Is it getting personal too fast? And if it is, if you step back, is there resistance to your boundary setting? There's a difference between being open and yourself and exposing and being too personal too fast. That could become future faking. And, so you're watching for things like that. Does it feel like an interview, and is it very one-sided? Someone grooming you for information, right? There are people who do that. There are certain personality types that do that, I've noticed, more than others. That doesn't necessarily mean they're toxic, but it feels really uncomfortable when you're being grilled like that. So when you're talking to someone new, are they non-committal with other things in their life? Can they commit to things? Are they responsible? What did I say here? Are they consistent with their behaviors toward things and other people and you and things around you and what's going on in the situation? Are you finding that as you talk to them, you're justifying things in your head? Like, oh, that makes sense. They just told me they had a bad childhood. That would make sense why they're really guarded and they don't want to engage emotionally, or they have a really difficult time with that. Like, has the person done their work? Have they healed from the last relationship? Can you tell through the way they answer questions? What? Oh, do they avoid the lessons in life and talk their way through it and out of it? Or do they engage or do they take accountability for the things that go on in their life? And I don't just mean the things that how they talk about work. What is their accountability toward coworkers, toward relationship, toward friendships, towards their pets, towards anything? Like, how do they take accountability? Does your gut feel off? Mostly when you're talking to someone, what do you feel like? That's a huge way to see if there's a red flag. What do you feel like when you walk away? Do you feel like they're stuck all over you and it's icky, or do you feel elevated and happy in a sense that they made you want to go out and do good things in your day? Right? Okay. Do they have a bunch of entitlement when they're talking to you? Right? Is there entitlement in their speech? And are they self-focused? And even when they're asking about you, how does this relate to me? So I don't know. Those are some things about when you're asking any question to look for. So really, in my world, it doesn't really matter what I ask. It's the way it's answered. And that's what I'm watching for. But so I don't know a whole lot of other things. Okay. What are we saying here? Definitely don't text anyone when you're feeling triggered. It's best to wait and reassess rather than jumping into a conversation you may regret. Absolutely. And that is being responsible and accountable to your own feelings, right? I just sold my beautiful home. Okay, we go forward. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about today? We are at the end of today's talky talk. I hope that was good and gave you something to think about for your futures and present time or whatever you need. If you have any topics you'd like me to talk about or any questions, you can always leave them in any comment to any video and I will try to get to them. I do write them down and try to get to them if I have words that I think would, if I think it'll work. All right. Anything else, you guys? You're welcome, Grace. Anything else? Okay, yeah. So if you've not hit subscribe, hit subscribe. If you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do so now. And yeah, if you want texting notification of my going live, text me at 33222. Put the word Lise Live, LISELIVE, hit send. If you need help with coaching or group coaching, I am available and I can be found in the main description of every video. And there I am over on Queen Being. You can find me there too. You're welcome, Scarlett. You're the best. And you feel peaceful. Excellent. I like that you had that with 2 different streams. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's it for today. You guys have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. I don't know what we're talking about tomorrow. We'll find it. I had a good one. Let's see. Maybe if I can get it together. I had a good one, which was cheat sheets for emotional responses to our triggers. When I feel anger, what can I do? When I feel sadness, what can I do? and creating our own cheat sheets and what that could look like. So, okay. Somebody said that they wish they had little baseball cards. They could just see anger and flip it over and it would have a list of things. I thought that was the cutest, most brilliant idea. So that might be good for tomorrow. I can't promise. I have to work on it. So, okay. On a side note, a dude texted me a picture of his food. I have no clue what pics of food mean in text. It means I'm trying to show you pieces of my life. Some people like to show you food. I don't know why. Maybe it's a way of trying to connect without being personal, but making it feel personal. I don't know. I have no idea why people do that. Okay. Hi, Robin. Hi, Robin. You're welcome, Robin. I said hi a long time ago. I need to get out of here. I'm just babbling now. Okay. See you guys tomorrow. Bye. Take care.